welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a huge topic, one that's, well, moving fast from sci-fi to real-world labs. Artificial General Intelligence, AGI.
That's right. And it's definitely a topic that gets people talking.
It really does. Our source for this deep dive is an excerpt called The AGI Horizon, Promise and Peril.
A very apt title.
Indeed. So our mission today, to really unpack what AGI actually is. How's it different from the AI you might use every day?
Yeah.
And then we'll get into the predictions about its future, which are, well, they're pretty fascinating, and sometimes they clash quite a bit.
They certainly do.
Because, like the source says, AGI seems to hold this incredible promise, huge breakthroughs, but also these quite serious warnings about risk. It's that contrast that's so compelling.
Yes, exactly. And understanding that contrast, that's really key. It pushes our thinking in, well, both exciting and slightly unnerving directions.
Okay, so let's dive in. AGI. When we talk about this, we're not talking about the AI we have now, the specialized stuff.
No, not at all.
We're imagining an AI that can learn, that can perform basically any intellectual task a human can. The kind of truly thinking machines from science fiction. But, and this is crucial, our source makes this point, we're not there yet. This hasn't actually been built.
Right. And what's really fascinating, I think, is drawing that line between AGI and the AI we do have. Think about things like ChatGPT or maybe Midjourney for images.
Yeah, things many of us use.
Exactly. They are incredibly good at specific things, writing text, making a picture, playing a complex game like Go, but they work within set boundaries, AGI, though, that would be different. It wouldn't just be better at one task. It would be a generalist. It could supposedly build its own understanding of the world, learn new things without someone needing to tweak it for every single new problem.
So it could tackle totally new challenges.
That's the idea, displaying something like, well, human common sense, adaptability across all sorts of different areas. It's not just a step up. It's a whole different kind of intelligence.
Okay, so not just doing one thing really, really well, but potentially anything, even things it wasn't specifically set up for.
Precisely.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question everyone asks. When? When might this actually happen?
The timeline question. Yeah. Our source looks into this, gathers different expert views, and while there's no single date everyone agrees on, obviously.
Naturally.
But many researchers, many thinkers in the field, they suggest AGI might emerge maybe in the coming decades. It's not seen as pure fantasy anymore.
So relatively soon, potentially.
Potentially. The source links this time frame to, the crazy speed of progress we're seeing, computing power, new algorithms like transformers, these huge AI models being built.
Right.
But, and this is important, there's still a lot of debate about what achieved even means. Right. What are the benchmarks? And let's be honest, predicting future breakthroughs is always inherently tricky.
Very true. So, okay, maybe decades away, maybe sooner, maybe later, but if it arrives, this is where things get really interesting, right? The impact.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there seem to be these two incredibly different ways of looking at what AGI would mean for us. It's this stark divide.
It really is. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, like our source does, you see these two camps clearly. On one side, people foresee just enormous benefits. Huge profits, yes, but also transformative progress for humanity.
Like what, specifically?
Well, imagine discovering completely new materials, finding new energy sources almost overnight, truly personalized medicine finally working at scale, solving some of our biggest global challenges. AGI could just accelerate science incredibly fast.
Wow, okay. That's the promise side.
That's the promise side.
Right.
But then you have the other perspective, the one issuing these pretty stark warnings about existential risks.
Right, the peril.
And it's not just about, killer robots. Like in the movies, it's often more subtle. Things like the control problem. How do you ensure an AI smarter than us shares our goals? Even if its goal seems harmless, could it lead to outcomes that are, well, bad for us? Or even just competing for resources on a massive scale?
Unintended consequences.
Exactly. Which really raises a crucial question maybe for you listening. How do you weigh that up? How do you balance that incredible promise against what could be profound peril? What do you make of these two outlooks?
It's a heavy question.
Yeah.
So let's try to recap where we are. We've talked about AGI, this idea of human-level AI across all tasks. Very different from the specialized AI we have now.
A fundamental leap.
Right. We've heard that experts think it could emerge, maybe in the coming decades, fueled by the tech progress we see. And its potential arrival sparks this huge debate. Massive progress versus potentially massive risks.
That captures it well.
So beyond all the tech talk and the timelines, maybe here's something to really chew on. If AGI does become real, what does that actually mean? Not just for technology, but for how we humans solve problems. How might it change our whole idea of what intelligence is? And, what does that imply about our place in the grand scheme of things? Definitely a lot to think about as we watch this horizon.